Officials and 12 people, including 61 children, have died in Gaza. 12 people, including 2 children, have been killed in Israel. Those figures come from officials.
I am not smart enough in history to be able to comment on the current situation in Palestine and Israel, but that clip made me think of something I can talk about, I think, and that's narratives and the structure of language and how we use framing, in this case active versus passive voice, in order to sway how people feel about things. I think I first learned of this through the book Mistakes Were Made But Not By Me by the incomparable Carol Tavris. So note the active versus passive language in the last clip. The people in Gaza just died. What happened to them? We don't know. Meanwhile, the Israeli people who were killed, something actually happened to them, right? It's active versus passive tense, and the group with more power gets to control the narrative, and essentially their actions are exonerated. The people in Gaza just died. Whoever holds the power will control the narrative, will use the passive voice in order to make themselves seem more innocent. Some examples from the book here. Henry Kissinger, was Secretary of State while we were in Vietnam. Mistakes were quite possibly made by the administration in which I served. There's not a lot of taking responsibility for his own actions there, right, for his own power. Okay, if in hindsight we also discover the mistakes may have been made, I am deeply sorry. If in hindsight mistakes have been made, this by a Catholic priest who overlooked sexual abuse in his clergy. We see this in the language of the police. Here, from the summer of 2020, Minneapolis, a photographer was shot in the eye. Who did it? We don't know. It's just something that happened. Passive voice. Meanwhile, Washington, D.C., protesters struck a journalist with his own microphone. So there, well, it's not the police involved, he used the active voice. It was the protester that did the thing. Back to the passive voice, a reporter was hit by a pepper ball, bing, on live television by an officer who appeared to be aiming at her. Could we rewrite that sentence to be more active and I would argue more honest? A officer aimed a weapon at a reporter and shot her in the eye. I think that's more honest. And maybe some of you knew that this was coming. Man dies after medical incident during police interaction. It goes on to describe the incident. Down here at the bottom, officers called for an ambulance. Okay, that's active voice. He, referring to the person who died, was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center by ambulance, where he died a short time later. What is this incident that they're talking about? This was the murder of George Floyd, and this is how it was initially reported by the police. So I invite you to notice when the active voice is used and when the passive voice is used, and apply that to how we think about groups with power and groups with less power.